Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast, the video edition. To keep the video from going on and on, 6 full hours worth, we edit these down to just the best parts of the show. These are 2 shows from Saturday and Sunday, July 17th and 18th, 2010, episodes 683, 684. If you want the full shows, of course, you can still listen to the audio podcast. But I do hope you enjoy this video version of the Tech Guy. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, and it's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, the works, all the digital doodads and doohickeys and geejaws that have become the Christmas ornaments of our tree of life, hanging from every branch, off our ears, off our belts, in our purses, or our European carry-alls, constantly around us at all times, whether it's a computer, a laptop, or a desktop, whether it's a cell phone, which is a little mini computer. We have technology around us all the time. Our home theater, even our big screen TVs are, in fact, computers. My big screen Pioneer runs Linux. It's got a Linux operating system in it. It's amazing. So this is what we should talk about on the show. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number if you want to get involved in the conversation. That's 1-888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., do call anyway via Skype. Just use Skype Out. It won't cost you anything. You don't have to have any Skype Out credits because it is a toll-free number. 1+1, I guess, if you're outside the U.S. +1-888-827-5536. Well, you know what I'm going to talk about today, and I apologize if we've overdone this subject, but this is the way news is, isn't it? You know, when we the press get a bone in our mouth, we just until we're done with it. Steve Jobs, in a, I think, unprecedented press conference. I don't think Apple's ever had to do this before. Yesterday. Defiant was the word I think some of the press used. The Wall Street Journal. A defiant Steve Jobs confronts antenna gate. Steve's response is worthy of Richard Nixon at its very best. In fact, even that he called it antenna gate. Here's a child of the 60s. Steve, you know better than that. He called it antenna gate. I am not a cell phone messer-upper. Pretty much said that it was the press's fault. That there's nothing wrong with the iPhone 4. It's perfectly good. All cell phones have problems like this. This is normal. And if you've had a problem, well, you're just a fool. And really, it's the press. They don't like me. I'm surprised he doesn't have an enemies list. Or he hasn't broken into my psychiatrist's office to steal. It's you people are making a mockery of this. He said, quote, "This has been blown so out of proportion, it's incredible. There's no antenna gate." Steve says, look, this iPhone 4, Consumer Reports is wrong. He didn't say me, but I and all the other journalists who have noted appalling signal problems on the iPhone 4, you're just wrong. And he said, I can prove it. Return rates at AT&T for the iPhone 4 are 1.7% compared to that of the iPhone a year ago, which was 6%. He said, yeah, we drop more calls. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many more calls, but it's one more per 100 than the iPhone 3GS. Just one now. if the iPhone 3GS drops 1 call in 100 and the iPhone 4 drops 2, that's twice as bad. But I mean, we don't know because he won't tell us. Look, the iPhone 4 was designed very beautifully. It's elegant. It's gorgeous. With the antenna on the outside. That's what that, metal band is around the outside of the phone. And as anybody knows who's ever had a phone, and, if you're an old guy like me, you remember the phones, the cell phones that came with antennas that stuck up. If you held the antenna, yes, your signal would drop. And if you were in a weak signal area, which many people with AT&T are, I am, your call would drop. If you have a strong signal like they do on the Apple campus, it doesn't drop. It's simple. Don't hold the antenna, says Steve. Well, but Steve, the antenna is all the way around the outside. Don't hold the antenna. In fact, Steve said, if more people had bought cases, he said, the real problem is we made such a beautiful phone, nobody wanted cases on it, and it's because people aren't buying cases that they're seeing this problem. If you would just encase it in plastic, you wouldn't have this problem. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give y'all a free case. And for those of you who bought a bumper case, the Apple $30 piece of 2-cent plastic, we're going to refund you the money. So I did the right thing. I mean, look, you can't say that that's not the right thing. They're going to give cases to everybody through September 30th. Why September 30th? Well, I figure by then Apple will have fixed the problem. How will they fix the problem? Well, they'll coat the metal on the outside with plastic. They'll shellac it, and then you won't be touching it. Problem solved. Apple has so mismanaged this, and Steve Jobs is so tone deaf on this. It isn't the press. It's people. I don't know about the return rates. Maybe people don't want to give up the iPhone. Maybe people have just decided, Steve, that the iPhone's a lousy phone, and we're going to live with it. I'll tell you what I did. I'm going to keep the iPhone. I have to for review purposes. I would love to give this iPhone back and get my money back. I went over to the Verizon store on Thursday, and I bought a Droid X, which is running on the Google Android operating system. Bigger screen, beautiful phone, no antenna problems. My goodness, I haven't dropped a call in days because I stopped using the iPhone. The thing that really put me over the top, I almost threw the iPhone out the window. 5 calls, 5 drops in a row. Separate calls to different people over a 48-hour period, 5 times. I didn't have one call that went through without dropping at one point. That was it. So, Steve, maybe I'm not returning the iPhone, but I sure am not using it. Now, I'll make a point of this, and I have not said on this show or at any other time have I not recommended the iPhone because of this. I just have said it's something to be aware of. You should know that if you're in a weak AT&T area, the iPhone might not be a great choice. You should absolutely, my strong recommendation, try it before you buy it. And, here's the good news. AT&T and Apple both will let you do that. You got 30 days to take it back, and Apple's not even charging a restocking fee. We don't have to, says Steve. It's not our fault. There's nothing wrong with the phone, but we're good people. We love our users. And so, because we love you so much, we're gonna be okay. A Nokia spokesman says antenna performance may be affected with a tight grip on the Nokia phones, depending on how the device is held. That's why, she added, Nokia phones are designed to ensure acceptable performance. Turn to page 5. In all real-life cases. Steve Jobs poo-pooed the idea floated by Bloomberg that Apple knew about this for a year and that Steve was the one who said, well, we're going to put it out anyway because it's so beautiful. I don't want to mess with the design. He said he said a strong word. Horsepucky, he said. Mr. Jobs said, the mistake we made was we X marks the spot. We put that band there so people would try holding it there. Steve really blamed the press on this. Do you blame the press? 8888 asked Leo, is it my fault that the iPhone drops calls and that the iPhone 4 drops calls worse, at least in my experience? Is it the press's fault that when you hold the phone in a perfectly normal way, not a death grip, just hold it in your left hand, that the reception drops to 0 in many cases? Look, Apple did the right thing. They're giving you a case. And I have no argument with that. I don't think they should have issued recall. I think they should try to fix it. I'm sure future cell phones from Apple will have this problem fixed. You can bet they're not going to keep shipping this problem. I don't think they need to be sued over this, although there are class action lawsuits. If you don't like the phone, Apple says, and I agree, you just return it, get another phone. Hey, look, here's the good news. There's lots of good choices. I think they're better choices than the iPhone. But if you want an iPhone and you understand the issues and you don't have the problem, get an iPhone. Steve did not, it's interesting, did not at any point blame AT&T, which he could have. Maybe he should have. But Steve's a gentleman, and he basically blamed the media. He didn't take responsibility. He didn't say we screwed up. He blamed the media. So, yeah, but he didn't blame AT&T. And you know what? Speaking for the media, which I don't, but at least one person in the media, I could take it, Steve. Blame me. It's my fault. I take full responsibility. I think you did the right thing. You're going to give out a case. I had to buy a case. I still drop calls on the iPhone 4. I'm not going to use it. It's not that good a phone, to be honest with you. And there are other good choices. There are very good choices. And I'll give you a review of the Droid X. There's a new Samsung phone coming out on most of the carriers. You know what the bottom line is from now on? It was always the case until the iPhone came out. And from now on, it is the case. You choose the carrier first. Which carrier gives you the best signal where you use the phone? Where you live, where you work, where you travel. Who does the best job there? Then you choose the phone you like best from that carrier. That's how it should have been. That's how it will be from now on. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You know, somebody said my Richard Nixon impression sound. He says, why is Leo talking like Mr. Ed? It does kind of sound like Mr. Ed. Hello, Wilbur. It's not an impression. It's an homage. Steve Jobs was doing his homage to Richard Nixon. There are companies that specialize in this kind of crisis management. PR companies say, here's how you do it. And most of them say, and I think this is true, when you screw up, don't cover up, don't blame others. Just say, I'm sorry. I take responsibility, and here's what we're going to do about it. From Exxon Valdez to Bill Clinton to this, that's what you do, whether you believe it's your problem or not. If people think it's a problem, and obviously people do, Consumer Reports does, then you don't say, as Steve Jobs did, oh, all phones are like this. The media's making a big deal out of nothing. You just say, I'm sorry, here's a case. And it finally did get around to that. It's like a kid, you catch a kid. They weasel around, they hem and they haw. I didn't do it. Oh, he did it. He made me do it. And finally, okay, here's a case. BlackBerry's RIM was peeved. BlackBerry, the co-CEO, responded to Apple's statement that, hey, BlackBerries have this problem. In fact, Apple used the bold 9700 to prove that this is a problem for all phones. From BlackBerry, this statement: Apple's attempt to draw RIM into Apple's self-made debacle is unacceptable. A debacle. Ooh. Apple's claims about RIM's products appear to be deliberate attempts to distort the public's understanding of an antenna design issue and to deflect attention from Apple's difficult situation. RIM is a global leader in antenna design. It's been successfully designing industry-leading wireless data products with efficient and effective radio performance for over 20 years. During that time, RIM has avoided designs like the one Apple used in the iPhone 4. And instead has used innovative designs which reduce the risk for dropped calls, especially in areas of lower coverage. Of course they do. That's how anybody would do it, right? Not Apple, because, see, Steve likes it. It thought it was pretty. It's clearly what happened. One thing's for certain, RIM's customers don't need to use a case for their BlackBerry to maintain proper connectivity. Apple clearly made certain design decisions. It should take responsibility for those decisions rather than trying to draw RIM and others into a situation that relates specifically to Apple. I think that's very well said. I think he's absolutely right. That says it in a nutshell. Don't blame somebody. You just take responsibility. Give the people a case and move on. It's a shame. I mean, the phone is beautiful. It's not functional, but it's beautiful. So they released, and this is another thing, Apple has done this in the past, and it's pretty funny. All computer companies have done this in the past. I remember there was a problem with System 7 where you'd get a lot of crashes with an error 11, the dread error 11 crash in System 7. So Apple fixed it. Not by fixing the crash, but by removing error 11. Yeah, we fixed it. It's all better now. So that's basically what they did with the 4.01 fix, which they put out, and probably you should get. All they did is they said, well, you're really not getting the bars we were saying you were getting. They rejiggered their formula to more accurately reflect your connectivity, and in fact, it's true. When I put 4.01 on my iPhone 4, I noted immediately that I was getting 2 fewer bars than I was getting before in my office and at my home. I still was able to hold the phone and get it go down to 0. That's not a problem. I still was able to drop calls. Didn't fix that. But those bars, they're not lying. You know, the real truth about this, I know I'm belaboring and I'm going to stop in a second. The real truth about this is, and the wonderful Jerry Pornell, who's been covering this industry longer than anybody else. He's 80 years old, and God bless him, he's as sharp and wonderful and funny as ever. He made the absolutely right on point. He said bars don't make any sense on a digital device because digital devices either work or they don't. On an analog cell phone, fewer bars, the signal would start to degrade. You'd still be able to hear somebody, but it would start to sound scratchy or whatever. You notice that doesn't happen on a digital cell phone. You either have a signal or you don't. It's just like your digital TV. It either works or it doesn't. There's no ghosts. There's no fuzzy signal. It either works or it doesn't. So Jerry said he's quite right. Forget the bars. The bars are literally a hangover from the analog days. It's a digital device. There should be a light or an indicator that says you have a good enough signal for a call or you don't. It works or it doesn't. That's it. And that's really true. Bars are meaningless when it comes to cell phone calls. It either works or it doesn't. And that's why instead of degrading, my calls on the iPhone 4 just stop working. Call failed. Call failed. Call failed. Because I'm on a weak signal. I admit it, I'm on a weak. It's my fault. A, I'm in the media. B, I once owned a BlackBerry. And C, I'm in a weak signal area. So I'm sorry, Steve. I'm so sorry. By the way, I wish I get the $30 back for the case because I didn't buy Apple's overpriced case. I bought one from iFrogs, and apparently I don't get a refund. Sigh. All right, I've been stalling a little bit. I'm going to get my computer working, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk more with you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're talking about technology. 8888 Ask Leo. It's kind of a fun day to talk about technology. We have so much good stuff to talk about. Somebody pointed out, and it's really true that, and this has happened all along, but that for the last, say, year, all of the interesting action in technology has been in the mobile space, particularly cell phones. But if you throw the iPad in, you have to say mobile space. It really has been where things have been interesting, innovating, where there's really been that sense of excitement that progress is being made, and it's really a demonstration of how the power of the computer is being shrunk into just a little device you carry with you all the time, and that is so empowering to have a mobile device, to always be on the internet, to always be able to be in touch with people. It's so empowering. It's very exciting. But we don't have to just talk about mobile devices. We certainly could talk about home theater. Love doing that. We'll talk about gadgets in about an hour with Dick DiBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer. He joins us every week to talk about that. We could talk about the internet, Web 2.0. There's some great, exciting stuff happening there. Actually, that was the flavor of the year last year, wasn't it? Web 2.0. This year it's cell phones. Next year, who knows? 8888 Ask Leo. Katrina in Redlands, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. It's Katrina. I just love your show.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell you, too, that I did, at your suggestion, get the Nod 32 about 6 months ago. Absolutely love it.
Yay. Thank you.
But my question today, I don't really know how to ask. Let me explain what I'm trying to do, and maybe that'll... I have two offices, a corporate office and then a delivery office, and I need to use my QuickBooks from both offices.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Best way to do it is to use QuickBooks Online. Are you using the desktop version of QuickBooks?
Yes.
We use QuickBooks Online. I should get my CFO in here.
Had that as
They
an
do,
option.
and it's a monthly fee. I'll tell you a couple of the reasons we like it. First of all, it's automatically updated. You know, in the end, I think it probably costs less to do the QuickBooks Online. Certainly not more, because QuickBooks every 2 years you have to update it, and it's like $400. So I think QuickBooks Online has that advantage. It's always up to date automatically. The other reason people like it is because multiple users can use it simultaneously at multiple locations, exactly your condition, including if you have a CPA. We got it because our CPA uses QuickBooks, as they all do, and when it's tax time, I don't have to go to him with a disk.
That's been my biggest problem, is that I have to get a disk, and then I have to tell my secretary, okay, don't do anything in QuickBooks till I come back.
Don't move anything. No, it's always up to date, and they can access it. You even have an accountant login that has limited... they can't change things. I mean, it's a very, very good solution.
And on there, all three of us be on it at the same time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really? That would solve all my problems.
I like it. I don't know what the negatives are. I'll ask Lisa, and after the break, I'll say, is there any reason why she shouldn't do it? But because I'm not an accountant, I have bookkeepers and stuff, but they love it. They love it. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of advantages to it. And some people say, well, wait a minute. I'm worried because I'm storing my financials in the cloud. Well, first of all, you could back them up so they're not at risk. But second of all, I think they're safer out there. Because if your office burned down... Okay, Lisa's in here. Lisa, we still use QuickBooks Online, right?
Yes, we do.
And is there a reason, any negative to that over the QuickBooks desktop?
The only negative is when it goes down.
If it's down.
If it's down is an issue.
That's a good point. You can't do your books if QuickBooks is down. And it was for like a day a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
It was. It's not as sophisticated as a desktop version, but I love it because it's accessible.
And multiple people can use it at the same time.
Yes.
That's what Katrina really wants to know.
Yes, and I just recommend you change your password frequently.
Yeah.
And you have a secure password, and it's awesome.
Did you hear that, Katrina? Change your password regularly and make sure it's a secure password, of course.
And
you can have...
any computers that are compromised.
And you have to make sure your computers are safe. But that's true if you have regular QuickBooks too. You don't want to have a bad guy on your computer if you're using regular QuickBooks.
Yes.
You're just as much at risk.
It depends on the accessibility, really.
Good.
I would recommend the desktop version over the online version.
Yeah, we were just moving to the cloud for our Microsoft needs as well.
Well, you're already there, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of don't understand the whole cloud thing, but
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You ever use a website?
Yeah.
It's in the cloud. That's it. That's all there is. So
basically moving to the cloud.
What the cloud means is that your data is, just like a website, is somewhere out there on a server. They call it a cloud because whenever they diagram the internet, they draw a big puffy cloud. Your data is out there on the internet, but you are running software on your computer that allows you to access it. In the case of a website, that software is a browser. In some cases, it's not a browser, but most of the times it is. In fact, with QuickBooks, it is a browser. That's one other negative. You have to use Internet Explorer for QuickBooks Online. It does require IE. That's the negative. And Mac users will not be happy about that. Lisa says, but if you're an accountant, you're not using a Mac anyway. What are you, nuts?
True.
So there you go. So and let me tell you, when I hired Lisa, it was almost 2 years ago. Our books were a mess. She fixed it all up, moved us onto QuickBooks Online, and we've been using it ever since. And I can't recommend it more highly. It really is doing a great job for us, and it's exactly what you want. If you had some specialized needs, you might not want. There might be something special in desktop that you need, but 90% of what you do can be done in QuickBooks Online.
Yeah. So how do I just call QuickBooks and say, hey, I just bought QuickBooks 2010 and I want it online and in the cloud versus on my desktop?
Yep. Very easy to do. They'll start charging you a monthly fee. It's not very much. Or you can go to QuickBooks.com and they'll explain it.
Awesome. I'm very glad I called.
I am too. Thank you, Katrina.
The best advice.
I try. Actually, I suspect that since you just bought 2010, which is $179, there should be a way. You should say to them, "Hey, I want some. Give me a rebate. Give me something." But you can sign up for free and try it, right? And all the features are documented on QuickBooks.com. Paul, Los Angeles, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Leo. Continuing on that theme of, I need something where I can do a website and I can also have a counter on there where when people come in, they'll see, how many people have actually shown up to view the
I haven't
site.
seen a website counter in years. That used to be all the rage on websites years ago. You'd have that little counter at the bottom would say. It's an easy enough thing to do. Do you have a website today?
No. And the other thing is I need a recommendation on a place that's fairly inexpensive to host, that will grow, and something that they can, if I put articles up there, they can do a search, kind of like what you have on your site where you can search for different things. Right.
What kind of site do you want it to be? What is it that you're...
Just informational.
Okay. There's a couple of things you can look at. Squarespace is the first one that comes to mind. They are a sponsor on my podcast, so a disclaimer there. Squarespace starts at $8 a month. They grow with you. In fact, you'll never run out of bandwidth. They have a very slick system that adds bandwidth. They do both the hosting and the software. I think there's an advantage to that. You don't want to become a web design expert or a web content management system engineer. So the idea that they do the host, they do it all kind of is nice. There are other companies that do something similar. Typepad.com is similar. Typepad, I'll give you always good to look at the example sites on these sites. Typepad runs the Huffington Post, so it can run a lot of data through it. WordPress.com, also same idea. All three of them do the same thing. They're hosted content management servers. So,
what is your site?
Which site? Leoville?
Yeah.
The Leoville.com is running on WordPress on my own server. When I first started doing this, I set up my own servers and host, with a host, but I manage them. I do the security. I run the software. I did all the design because I wanted to learn all this stuff, and I have been doing it for about, 15, 20 years now. If I were starting today, I probably wouldn't start that way because I had to become an expert. The Tech Guy Labs is running on PM Wiki, which is wiki software, on a soft layer server, and I had to become an expert in Unix. I had to become an expert in Wiki. I had to install it, all of this stuff. And today, would I do it that way? No. But my job is to become an expert in this stuff. That's not your job.
The ones that you mentioned, though, you can do searching for various things, though. You can go back and archive. Okay.
What you're going to look for, first of all, any good content management system will have search. Some of them will be Google-based. Some of them will have their own internal search. I happen to like Google-based search, and that's easy to turn on even if a site doesn't support it. It's just a little JavaScript you'll put in there. But almost any good site, and certainly the three I mentioned, allow you to do either. And they will. Some of them have commerce. If you want commerce, you should look for that. Squarespace does not. Typepad does. I would say the two biggies in this hosted content space are Squarespace, which just got a $38 million venture investment, which means they're going to become a big player here. That's a huge amount of money. And the other is Typepad, which is run by Six Apart. They do they run a lot of big time blogs. Either one is a very good choice. I'd look at both, and both have free trials. You can see if they kind of fit your needs. Typepad is perhaps more flexible, but requires more skill on your part. Squarespace, boy, you don't have to know anything to use it, and you can get beautiful sites out of it. Hey, good luck, Paul. I think this is a great project for anybody. Everybody should have a website, right? Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello.
Hello, Dick. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
No, it's
great.
frankly simply the.
I got myself a Droid X, and I love it.
I heard.
I'm so happy
That
with
was
it.
so funny. I thought when the guy said, "Aren't you the tech guy? Come in, come back." Oh, okay. Oh, and you got the stand.
I got this. I spent $40 on the stand. I got the HDMI, but you know the stand's nice because it makes it a desk clock like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Although I gotta change it so it stays on, right?
Completely unintended support.
Gotta figure that out.
You don't have to pre-install
And then I
software.
put on it. I found a. I really like it. A new.
And it's working.
I
can give you 100 reasons.
See if I can exit out of this. I guess if I do that, yeah. I found a new desktop program because I wasn't crazy about the Motorola software, and I used to use Froyo. But this is a new launcher that lets us do. Look at this dock. I can scroll the dock over. I have more icons in the dock.
That's great.
So there's all the people I call. There's the standard dock in the middle, and you can customize those icons just by pressing and holding. You can make this be anything you want. So I really like that. And it gives you anywhere from 1 to 7 screens, so you can change the number of screens. It's got a lot of really nice features. It's called Launcher Pro. And, you know, I've tried launchers, and they've always bogged the thing down. And this one does not. This really does a nice job. I'm very impressed by it.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah. Are you going to use this as a phone, as your main phone, you think?
You know what? I'm going to use it as a backup phone. I'm probably not going to carry it everywhere.
What do you use most of the time?
Most of the time, I use the LG, the LG 3, the Voyager 3.
Oh, okay.
And,
yeah, I'm so excited about this phone. Except I lost my T1. I can't find my my Blue Ant. I got to look around for it. It's those
so
Bluetooth
you either have
things
one
are
or the
tiny.
other. Well, you'll find the Blue Ant, and then you'll lose the Droid X.
I got to close this Blockbuster movie service. I don't want it anymore. How do I? Yeah, I know there's no SD card. You're plugged in, you nitwit. Go away. Stop bothering me. Yeah, so because of this, I was able to really kind of simplify my home screen a little bit. Really is great. I just love these phones.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So this is the screen next to the iPhone screen. You can see it's a lot bigger. You know, I like the iPhone screen, and it's very high resolution, but I actually prefer the size of the screen is more important to me than the resolution.
Yeah.
This is a higher resolution than the Evo screen. I also think that this icon matrix is just old hat compared to this.
It is now.
What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I'm going to do the Magic Wand
fun.
portable scanner.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Dick DeBartolo's here. He's Mad Magazine's maddest writer for the last 4 decades. And he is also a gadget hound. And he joins us every week to talk about gadgets. He does a podcast with me called the Daily Giz Wiz, which you can hear Monday through Friday. Reviews gadgets for us. His website is gizwiz.biz. Hello, Dickie D.
Hey, Leo, how you doing?
Very well. How are things in Manhattan?
Things are good here. Very, very hot.
You know, I met a guy the other day who lives in Manhattan. You know, his name is Fred Burrows. You know him?
No.
Okay. I just thought maybe...
But, you know, there's more than him. There's him and there's 2 other guys who live in Manhattan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was a small town.
Yeah, I know the other 2, but I don't know. I don't know Fred.
He wears a hat.
Oh, Fred with the hat.
With the hat.
I know him by sight. If he has his hat on.
All right. We're just being silly. Dick, you got a gadget for us. By the way, you reviewed 2 weeks ago the Droid X, and we've been talking about it. I got it. I love it. It is
It's
great
really neat,
phone.
isn't it?
Yeah. Really fun.
You take everything with you. You have your web and your movies and your... it's great.
You know, the camera is kind of neat because it's got a camera button on the top of it, and it has some really nice built-in camera features, like it has a built-in panorama feature. So if you take a picture and you turn on the panorama feature, all you have to do is rotate the camera, and when it gets to the right spot, it'll take the picture, and you move on, and then it does a 6-picture panorama built in. I love that.
Built in. And I believe you actually set how many panels you want.
Yeah, you can choose all of that.
Because at the demo, they had these long panoramic photos, and then they explained the software was in there.
It's pretty impressive, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
there's
this is a
program.
harder way to get a panoramic using my gadget today.
What's your gadget today?
It's the Magic Wand portable scanner.
The Magic Wand.
Portable scanner. So if you want to scan landscape, it's going to be really tricky. But if you want to scan a document, like in the library, or you go to someone's house and have a photo you love, you can just lay the photo on the desk and run the Magic Wand portable scanner over it.
Really?
You can shoot in either 300 DPI, but for color you want 600 DPI. It's from Viewpoint Solutions. The neat thing about it, Leo, is it's under $100.
So this is something like you'd keep in your pocket. Do you need to plug it in, or does it have a battery?
No, it runs on 2 AA batteries. And all you do is press the button, whether you want the 300 DPI or 600 DPI, run it over what you want. On my website, gizwiz.biz, if you click on the Tech Guy Show button, you'll see a scan I did there of the cover of Mad. And
in the past, these things have been kind of hard to control because your hand doesn't move perfectly, right?
Yes.
So do you get distorted images, or is it smart enough?
No, I didn't distort the image. When you see it, I scan slightly lopsided. Just click on the Tech Guy.
Oh, that's
button
not bad. Look at that.
Yeah. And I lifted it a little too soon before I hit the bottom of the magazine.
But you know what? It's a good image, and you did that by hand.
By hand and first time. So it saves it to a memory card. Now, you have to add a little bit of expense because it comes with no memory card.
Right.
But under $100, and Bed Bath & Beyond has just started carrying it.
No, really?
Yes, they have.
You know why? I know why. I realize why. Because now I have a daughter going to college in the fall. What you do, you bring your kid to school, and then you go to Bed Bath & Beyond to get them quilts, pillows, all that stuff. So they're really smart to sell student
You know what?
gear.
That's very interesting because I'm pulling together a spot for World News Now about back to school, and this is one of the gadgets.
Sure, and this is so while you're in there buying pillows, you might get a magic wand too. Why not?
See, I thought you were going to say you were going to scan someone else's diploma, put Abby's
Well, that's
name
what
on
I
it,
did.
and
That simplified things considerably. Yeah, I just
say 4 years of college.
Yeah. Dick is at gizwiz.biz. You can read his full review of the Magic Wand portable scanner from Viewpoint Solutions there. It's about $100. And make sure you tune in the daily Giz Wiz, Monday through Friday, our great podcast. You can get it at TWiT.tv. Dick, we'll talk.
And you can follow me on Twitter at The Giz Wiz.
Twitter at The Giz Wiz.
No, Twiz Wiz. Twitter / The Giz Wiz.
The Giz Wiz.
The Giz Wiz.
The Giz Wiz. I'm the tech guy. You're the Giz Wiz.
Yes.
Let's make that clear. Thank you, Dick.
Okay, see you later.
See you in a few. We're going to record our show in just a little bit with Dickie D. But meanwhile, Mike in Glendale, California, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, I'm sure you love it when you open an advertisement and find out that you can't live without something you never knew you needed.
That's what ads are all about, isn't it?
There you are. I have a notebook, and I'm perfectly happy with it. So all of a sudden, people start selling notebook coolers.
Right.
And they're these things that I think you put the computer on top of, and it plugs into the USB port, and it's supposed to do something good, but if they needed more cooling in the computer, wouldn't they have designed it in when they made it?
Well, one would think so. In fact, this product isn't necessary. If you don't notice a lot of heat coming from the bottom of your netbook or your notebook, don't worry about it. But there are people who, for one reason or another, their computers are getting hotter. HP had a problem with overheating computers. Sometimes laptops are not as well designed as they ought to be. And this will make a difference. I mean, it's a little bit annoying. It's got these big fans. It does plug into the USB port, as you said, to be powered. They're usually cheap. In fact, you can get them on eBay for $5 or $6. We did some testing on them, and they reduced the temperature internally on the laptop by about 10 degrees centigrade, which is, actually pretty significant. But you're absolutely right, Mike. Unless you notice that your computer is really hot or you see some symptoms of overheating like sudden shutdowns, I wouldn't worry about it. The key is when you're using a computer, if you're in bed, don't put it on a blanket. Put it on a hard surface so the computer can be raised up off the ground and get some air under it. If you're using it on a tabletop, you're probably fine. These things are not necessary. They're inexpensive. They came about because the newer chips are very hot, and some people noticed that the bottom of their computer was getting really, really hot to the touch and just decided that it was better to cool it off. And in some cases, you actually needed it because of flaws in design. But you're right, Mike. This is not something you absolutely need. We're out of time, but I thank you all for being here. Make sure you go to the website, techguylabs.com, for more information about everything we talk about, and I'll see you next time. Have a great Geek Week. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Well, a good day to you. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. We're going to talk about technology now.
Leo, you're clipping.
The change of pace in the overall scheme of things. 8888 Ask Leo. Popular topic, though, these days, I'll tell you. And technology does not mean just Windows computers, which it used to mean for many years. It means computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, all of that fun stuff.
It's good now.
8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number if you have a question, a comment, or a suggestion. 8888 Ask Leo. And we can talk about computers. We can talk about the internet. I think today we'll be talking just a little bit about the iPhone, what Steve Jobs dubbed Antenna Gate. Sounding more and more like Richard Nixon, Steve. Just got to say it. It's the media that made this a problem. Everybody loves this phone. We don't have any problem with it, but just because the media made this a story, we're going to give you a free case. So there. Look, the media didn't make this up. Consumer Reports is not out to get you, Steve. You don't have to put them on the enemies list. It's okay. I'm gonna just sum this up and we're gonna move on. It's very simple. What has happened in the last few months is there are so many good smartphones out there. There's so many good choices for you as a consumer. Let me make this very clear. You know, sometimes people think, oh, Leo, your job is to promote X, Apple, Google, Android. You're a fanboy, and don't you go apostate on us. Don't you go, don't become a heretic. Don't go to the other church. No, oh, heaven for fan. No. Well, see, that's not my job. My job, I'm very clear about it. I'm not exactly a journalist. I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for you. I'm an advocate for the user. Not for the computer industry, not for any one brand or company or device, but for the user. And I'll just tell you what I think is the best for the user, because I am one. And that's who I feel a bond, a kinship with, and that's frankly who needs representation. Not Apple, not Microsoft, not Google. They're doing fine, folks. They don't need help. They don't need my support. We need to band together as consumers. Let's not forget that, and let's not get so caught up in the church of Steve Jobs that we say, oh, you can't say anything bad. Oh, it might be wrong. Look, it's very simple. What has changed is there are great phones on every carrier now. You choose the carrier first. That's how it used to be. It was for a long time. In fact, it was until, frankly, Apple came out with the iPhone in 2007. That changed everything. That phone was so much above and beyond and head and shoulders above anything else in the marketplace that people went to AT&T because that's who had it. Well, good news. You don't have to go to AT&T now. And if you are someone who doesn't have great AT&T service, if you drop calls at AT&T, or if you go to your home or work or you travel around and AT&T goes down to 1 or 0 bars, you just don't have the signal, you don't have to use AT&T. Hallelujah. In fact, you don't have to use an iPhone. There are great smartphones even on AT&T now. So I think a smartphone is a great thing. And the people who listen to this show, obviously, you're into technology. You tend to be computer users, and more serious computer users, more enthusiastic about technology. So I think you probably also want a smartphone, or you're very interested in the notion of a smartphone. For 3 years, Apple had a monopoly. There was nothing. The BlackBerry, okay, maybe. Windows Mobile, oh, please, no. Google in its first iterations of Android, not really. Well, it's all changed now. Now you can say, well, I get the best coverage from Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, whoever it is in my neck of the woods, that's who I want. And then you can go and you can look. If you're a Verizon customer, and by the way, I'll tell you, I suffered, as many did, with the iPhone for a long time because it was the only choice. Well, now that there is a choice, I'm off AT&T, baby. That thing, I'm sorry, I just don't get good signal. I'm dropped too many calls on the iPhone. I love the iPhone for hardware-wise. If it were on Verizon, you bet I'd probably be using it. Well, it'd be close. Let's put it that way. But I have to say I'm a fan of these new Android phones. I bought a Droid X on Thursday. This is the newest Verizon Droid. Love it. Love it. This is a great phone. I think in many ways superior to an iPhone. And especially because, at least for me, Verizon's a better network. Apple with the iPhone 4 did something unusual. They put the antenna on the outside. We used to have phones like that. Remember? The extensible antenna? And you know what? When you grab the antenna, you'd lose signal. So Steve's not wrong when he says all phones have this problem. You're missing the point, Steve. Your company designed a phone with the antenna on the outside where people could grasp it. Period. Steve said we were surprised that more people didn't buy cases. Well, you made a beautiful phone. Nobody wanted to put it in a case, and it's really too bad that you have to put it in a case if you're in a weak AT&T area. Apple's not. As Steve Jobs pointed out, Apple has an AT&T cell site on campus. So they get 5 bars no matter where they are. Well, of course you don't have the problem. If you have a strong AT&T signal, it doesn't matter that you're grasping the antenna. It's strong enough to get through your hand. If you have a weak signal, you will drop calls. And after the 5th call in 2 days, I threw the phone out the window. Not quite literally, but it was close. I said, I can't take it. I have a case on it, and I'm still dropping calls. And that's because I admit I live in a weak area. But it's a problem. Consumer Reports says it's a problem. Many, many users say it's a problem. I know Steve said, oh, they're not. They're being returned at a lower rate than the 3GS. That's fine. Maybe people, suffer with the problem. Do you ever think of that, Steve? It's, this is a tribute to you, to the power of the iPhone. People put up with bad phone service for the iPhone. I did for 3 years. We put up with it. We don't have to. Sprint's got the Evo. Fantastic phone. T-Mobile, I just played with these new Samsung these Galaxy S phones. Everybody has one, including AT&T. Beautiful 4-inch AMOLED screens, Android operating system, gorgeous. So there are many, many good Android choices. Windows Mobile's coming out soon. Some have said it's terrible. I just read an InfoWorld piece that said, this is awful. It looks pretty good to me from a distance. I'll see when it comes out in October. I'll let you know. BlackBerry's coming out with version 6 of their OS. It looks better and better. There are plenty of good choices. Choose your carrier, the place you get the best signal or the best service or whatever it is that rocks your boat with a carrier. And then, good news, there's great phones in all carriers. And if you want an iPhone, go ahead and get it. Just understand, if you're in a weak AT&T area, and there are lots of them, it will not be a great phone. Be great for playing Scrabble, but it will not be a great phone. Period. And yeah, you should get a case. Apple's giving them away. It's too bad. I mean, it's a beautiful device. You know what happened, of course. Bloomberg said this, and Steve said it's BS. He said it in a stronger way than that. BS. Bloomberg said they knew there was a problem. They knew for a year. Steve just couldn't let go of the design. He just said, it's too beautiful. I'm going to live with it. We're going to put the antenna on the outside. It just looks great. Well, it may be BS, but it sure rings true, doesn't it? Maybe it isn't exactly how it happened. Apple knew they had a problem. They knew that this was the antenna, was on the outside. If you grasp it, you're going to have a problem. And they're going to fix it. This free deal, you get a free bumper case or one of other selected cases because they can't make enough of those cheesy plastic cases to go around. They were charging $30 for a case that could not cost them more than 25 cents to make. It's extruded plastic. And it's not even much extruded plastic. It must cost less than a toothbrush to make. And they were charging $30 for it. Oh, Apple. Well, now they're going to refund your money if you bought one of them. And I would take advantage of that because you got ripped off. And they're going to give away free bumpers to the extent they've got them. And if they don't, they have other cases. And I would say if you get an iPhone, and even if you're in a good place where you live for AT&T, if you plan to take it anywhere like San Francisco, you might want to get a case too. Enough said. It's done. Apple did the right thing. They did a lot of Nixonian, it's not our fault. The media made us do this. Other phones have this problem. None of which was germane or to the point. But in the long run, they did the right thing. Steve Jobs said, yeah, we're very sorry. Here, have a case on us. That's all. Good. Well done. Bravo. It's over. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Except if you ask me for a phone, I'm going to say there's great choices on all carriers. And don't ignore the Android operating system. It is fantastic. I am just loving this Droid X. Okay. I'm through. Anything going on with Facebook? Anything else you want to talk about? We can talk about, of course, Windows 7 Service Pack 1. It's due out. It's in beta now. It'll be out in a couple of months. People may be remembering how important Service Pack 2 and 3 were to Windows XP, might be saying, oh, we can't wait. Don't worry. Not a big deal. Microsoft has gone back to what these service packs used to be, which is roll-ups of a bunch of fixes. It's really not necessary if you've been updating Windows, as you should. I hope you are every month on the second Tuesday when Microsoft pushes those fixes out. You're installing those, right? If you're installing those, then the Windows 7 Service Pack 1 is not going to be a big deal for you on Windows 7. On the server, there are some new features you might care about if you're a Windows Server user. But not a big thing. Nothing to go all excited about. Windows 7 is not going to change. You know, Microsoft got it right the first time. Because frankly, because they got it wrong the first time with Windows Vista, and they fixed it. And now it works. And I tell you, I like Windows 7, I have to say. I do wonder what Apple, with Apple and all the attention Apple is spending, and, with cars in the parking lot all night, and we have cots in our labs, and we're working hard. I wonder what they're doing with OS 10. Is Apple paying any attention to the desktop, the computers, the laptops? Or is it really all the attention on the iPhone and on the iPad these days? I kind of think it is. That would be sad. All right, 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. You think I'm wrong, you call me, or whatever. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's move on to the calls. Logan in the Mojave. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Logan.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. What can I do for you today?
Well, my grandmother, I'm at her house right now, and I have a game for the computer, and it keeps freezing on the same point in different levels.
Grandma's computer just isn't as good as yours, Logan. That's the problem.
Well, she has, her computer's about 5 years old. It's a Dell Dimension 3100, and they have 2 gigabytes RAM. The game only takes 200 and...
What's the game?
Lego Indiana Jones 2.
Oh, that's not the hardest game in the world. It should be able to play that game pretty well.
I know, it just freezes. It freezes in the same point whenever I try to play a certain level.
Well, I got a new game for you to play, Logan. Fix Grandma's computer. So here's what I would suggest. Usually when you get something like that happening, there's 2 possibilities. Most likely it's a video driver issue. So what you're going to have to do, and do this carefully, what you don't want to do, Logan, is leave Grandma with a broken computer. She won't like that. I bet she's already said that, hasn't she? You can play Indiana Jones, but don't break my computer, kid. So with
my grandmother's right here, and
and I'm sure she doesn't sound like that. I'm sorry, Grandma.
Sometimes I do.
Get off of my lawn. So, just teasing. So, I know Grandma wants to get this working, and it's probably a worthwhile thing to do anyway, is check the video drivers. So what you're going to do is you're going to try to figure out, if it's a Dell, probably the best thing to do is go to the Dell website and find that exact model. In fact, somewhere on the computer there is a Dell number. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like your ticket number. It's your computer number. And if she's ever logged into Dell.com and you go there, it'll probably be there. If not, create an account for her, log in, and enter that ticket number, and it'll know everything there is to know about your computer, including what the video driver is, what video card it is, and they probably will have an update. So I want you to do that anyway, Logan, is go to the Dell site and get all the updated drivers for that computer. Okay.
And then
the other thing could be overheating, like our last caller was talking about. Sometimes your computer works fine until you really tax it. And playing that game might just be making it work hard enough so it goes, I can't go on, it's too hot in here. So you might want. Is it a laptop or a desktop?
It's a desktop.
Oh yeah, you said it was a Dimension. You might want to look inside, make sure it's not covered in dust. That the fans are working, that it's clean and everything. Grandma should help you with that. That might be just a little unscrewing them. Are you pretty handy with computers, Logan? Are you like the computer kid in class?
No.
Okay. Well,
I was just at a summer camp. Someone built his own computer because his broke.
Yeah. There you go. That's the guy. Call him. He's going to be taking my job any day now. He built a computer at camp?
No.
Oh, okay. At his house. Yeah. Yeah, there's always one. You can do this. You're going to be the guy next year. So get those drivers from Dell. Get the latest drivers from Dell. That'll probably going to fix the problem. Almost certainly. Good luck. And don't break Grandma's computer. Maybe, Logan, you could go outside. You get some fresh air. Enjoy the day. It's a beautiful day. Have some fun. Play in the dirt. Dave, Merced County, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Leo. How are you today?
I'm great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good talking to you again. Hey, I have a comment on cloud computing and then a quick iTunes tag question.
Good. Let's talk about cloud computing because that is the flavor of the day, isn't it, these days?
It sure seems to be.
Yeah.
But I have questions as to its usability and viability because it requires a lot of bandwidth to be able to push a lot of your files up to that cloud.
Absolutely. It depends on what you're doing, of course, but if it's a calendar, that's easier. But if it's, a spreadsheet, yeah, you need some bandwidth. Absolutely.
And especially like in my case, I have like 400 gigs of photographs, and well, they're not all mine, but close to 2 terabytes of videos.
Well, and people have, we talk about Carbonite, our backup solution, and people say, well, can I do that on dial-up? No, if you're going to back up gigabytes of data, obviously you have to have high-speed internet, and you have to have high speed in both directions, and that's kind of important. I think a lot of people say, oh, well, I've got 20 megabits down or whatever their, companies giving them, but they have 128 kilobits upstream because for a long time nobody cared about the upstream. Nobody was uploading stuff. You just were surfing or getting your email or whatever, and that's changed now, and especially with cloud computing. So you're absolutely right, Dave. If you've got a lot of data, you're not going to store your data, all of it, in the cloud and work on it. I think that's a misconception. Cloud does not mean everything's in the cloud. It just means that the stuff that you want to work on other computers, the lightweight stuff, I wouldn't, I have more than, I have at least a terabyte of photos. I'm not going to put those all on the cloud. I'm going to put the stuff that I'm working on today on the cloud maybe, or photos I want to share with people on the cloud, but not a terabyte worth of stuff. So you're right. It's kind of a hybrid solution we're looking at today where we have some local and some cloud.
Right. And I actually envision more us maybe gravitating to, say, the way Paul talks about during his podcast, with where you're accessing your home servers. You're
talking about Paul Thurati does the Windows Weekly podcast on our network, and he loves Windows Home Server, and that's exactly what he does. But that's cloud too, isn't it? Because when he's in France, he travels a lot. He's accessing his data over the internet. It's not a cloud server that somebody else is running. It's his own cloud server. I even recommend that. I use Pogo Plug, and I tell people Pogo Plug's the greatest thing in the world. It puts the cloud in your living room.
Right. And I see cloud computing moving. It's gravitating towards it, but I think our service providers that are providing the bandwidth need to grow as well, I guess.
I couldn't agree more. And in fact, look at the FCC's national broadband plan. That's one of the things they're calling for. In fact, I think the most important thing after net neutrality is for high-speed internet to more people. I mean, I think there are a lot of people who especially live in rural areas who get broadband. They'd be happy to have something besides dial-up.
Oh, right. And well, we're moving there. I think with the wireless broadband, we're gravitating and picking up more people that are in the more rural areas where the land services, the land wire services, aren't able to provide the speed at at least at this point in time.
I agree. Yeah, I'm excited about things like WiMAX. That's going to be a good solution for those areas.
But now the more important reason for my call, I have iTunes. I've been running iTunes for a couple of years on my Windows computer, using it for my playlists and listening to the podcasts and such. And as I do that, I'm continually editing the tags in iTunes. As a result of that, I have the tags set to the way that I want them. How can I export the tags out of iTunes and attach them to the individual files?
This is so important, and you've pointed up a real weakness in Apple's iTunes setup. They store all of that metadata, non-musical data, and by the way, that includes album art. They store it in a separate XML file. They don't attach it to the music file, and that's a huge problem because people move their music files and their metadata is lost. And if you spend a lot of time, as you obviously have, Dave, in adding a lot of data about information about the song and stuff to your iTunes library, you can very easily lose that metadata. And I think that's a huge flaw. MP3s and AACs have in the specification a way to include that data in the music file so that it goes with the music file. Why iTunes doesn't take advantage of this is beyond me. You really want to back up that iTunes library folder, in particular the XML files, the ITL files. Those have data that you need. And, well, we got to run and take a break. But when we come back, Dave, listen on the air. I'll give you some solutions for saving that data and moving it to. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our last caller wanted to back up his iTunes library. I found a very good article, which I can highly recommend, on iLounge.com. It's by Jesse David Hollington. And it's the most thorough article I've seen about not only, what to do to back it up, but what's there. There is an iTunes backup method. If you go to File, Library, and to get that menu attached to Library, you'll see there's a backup to disk command. But if it won't fit on a DVD, you're out of luck. You can, and it does back up not merely the music, but all of the additional, we call it metadata, the extra stuff like album art titles and all that stuff that you've backed up. But it's severely limited because it has to fit on a DVD or a CD. And also, you'll see there are some other limitations that David lists in here. So I think you're probably going to want to use some third-party tools. He does a great job of talking about what the iTunes folders and files mean, because there's a bunch of weird files that iTunes uses. There's the ITL, which is the iTunes Library Database. That's where playlists, track metadata, ratings, play counts, file locations are stored. You got to have that. Why isn't it stored in the song? Well, there's probably not enough room, but it is a shame that it's not somewhere where you have access to it. If you move your music, you won't get this. You have to move the ITL file. There's the XML file, which contains information about what the songs are. There's the Genius ITDB, iTunes database file. There's the Extras ITDB. There's the artwork folder. This is unfortunate that the artwork isn't stuck into the file, because there is in MP3s and AAC files, which are the most common kinds of files you'll see in iTunes, there is a place to stick the album art, but iTunes doesn't do it. So there are some programs that will take, in fact, I've used some programs that will take the album art out of this album artwork folder and attach it to the music, so at least you keep the album art, which is very, very frustrating. There is no one, as far as I know, one great Windows or Mac tool that will do all of this. You're going to need a series of tools. This is a very good place to start. It's a little Mac-centric, but there is information in here that will be of very great use to you. It's on iLounge. We put a link in the show notes at techguylabs.com, or you could Google iLounge Guide to Backing Up Your iTunes Library. Jesse David Hollington wrote it, and it really is very complete, much more complete than I could, in my limited time here, talk about. But I think the bottom line is, if you're going to move your iTunes library, don't just take the music. You got to take the whole folder, and you're stuck using iTunes, aren't you? And that's kind of part of the problem. You could, of course, just copy the iTunes folder to an external drive to back up, and that's a good idea. Apple, I believe, and Microsoft does this too, I think both companies have an obligation to consumers when they create non-standard ways of doing this stuff to kind of give you ways in and out so that you're not stuck. But, of course, it's not in their business interest. Apple wants to keep you stuck in iTunes, don't they? They don't want you to use something else. It's not in their business interest. I have to point to Google in this regard. They have something they call the Data Liberation Front. Google realized that this is a potential problem. Remember that Google doesn't, for business reasons, it is not as tied to keeping you using Google products as, say, Apple or Microsoft are. They don't sell software, so if you use somebody else's software, it's okay with them. But they really wanted to pay attention to this notion of not becoming a roach motel for your data. So I think what Google did, if you go to dataliberation.org, they kind of created a skunkworks project within Google. I've talked to some of the team members to implement this very important idea, and it's right here on the front. Their mission statement is users should be able to control the data they store in any of Google's products. Our team's goal is to make it easier to move data in and out. And the out is what I care about. I don't want the tools I use, the programs I use to become roach motels. I don't want to get so tied into, for instance, iTunes that I can never use anything but iTunes. And unfortunately, it's not in Apple's business interest. It's in my interest. Ultimately, of course, any company's interests and should coincide with my interests because I'm the customer. But how often does that really happen? So we got to, and mostly they get away with it because customers don't even know till they move their iTunes library and they lose all their metadata. And they go, what happened? I put a lot of work into those comments and all that information. What happened to it? It's gone. I've used a program called Cover Scout, which is a nice little program to copy the album art into the file so that it's attached to the file. But that's just the album art. What about your playlists, your ratings, your comments, all of that stuff that you put in there? I think Apple's got to look to Google, and Google's done this so well, and the Data Liberation Front, and Microsoft, and everybody else, and say, look, it's in the customer's interest, so ultimately it's in our interest that you can get data in and out. Ultimately, it's in our interest. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, let's get some more calls in here. Stan in Woodland Hills. Leo Laporte here. What can I do for you, Stan?
How are you, Leo?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Okay, fine. I called into you earlier this year about the translator towers for DirecTV.
Yeah.
And since that time, I found out there's a moratorium on granting licenses for these towers until next year.
So Stan doesn't get good reception, so you were going to build a big receiver to get the DirecTV in, and they say they won't let you do it.
No, the translator tower itself is what they are putting in, like, for instance, in the San Fernando Valley up on Oak Mountain.
Why would you need a translator? Because isn't it satellite as long as you have line of sight to the satellite?
Well, but I'm on broadcast, direct broadcast. I have an antenna on my roof.
Oh, you're not talking about DirecTV, the satellite provider. You're talking about broadcast TV.
Broadcast.
Got it. Now I'm
my set.
So
it gives you the finest reception in high definition TV.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's the best. The secret best deal in HD is broadcast high def.
Correct.
It's not. It's free. It's not. It's not compressed nearly as much as satellite or cable. Looks good.
That's the whole point.
Right.
Now, I have been checking with my congressman's committee on energy and commerce to find out what's happening with H.R. 2903. You're aware of that.
So is it a federal moratorium, or is this another topic?
Well, I got the information from FCC that they have a moratorium this year, and then in 2011 they'll start granting licenses again for the tower installation.
And H.R. 2903 is this bill to help people who are in what they call a cliff area, which is you were able to get analog just fine, but just the slight switch to digital, the people who are in the marginal areas who were able to get okay analog reception get zero digital reception.
Well, I happen to get digital, but not in some channels are a little difficult.
Yeah.
Because apparently it bounces off something in my neighborhood. Because I am in the shadow of Mount Wilson. I have a 140-foot hill 2 blocks east of me.
That's the problem. Well, I mean, I don't know what the answer is to this. H.R. 2903, which came out last year, I guess that didn't pass. That was just a small stopgap, a small amount of money, only whatever, a few $100 million for people who are in your situation. This is, I guess the government's saying, well, we're sorry, it was our fault. They mandated that the broadcast channels would change to digital. And as it turns out, that digital transition wasn't too painful except for this small number of people who are in the cliff areas. That cliff not as in hill, but cliff as in the signal's working just fine and then it drops off like nothing off a cliff just because you're just at that marginal area where you're just outside of reception. It's not a lot of votes, I guess is all I can say. No member of Congress is going to get booted out because they didn't pass 2903. And I think that's, unfortunately, that's the problem. I wish you luck, Stan. Bad news that they're not building these translators. It's a great expense, and that's probably part of the reason. Hey, before we go on, I do want to mention our friends at Nod 32. We talked about it last hour. Somebody was asking me for an antivirus recommendation, and all I can say is if you want the best, if you're using Windows and you really want the best, something that's lightweight and yet effective, in my mind, there is no question the best antivirus on the market, paid or free, is Nod 32. You go to eset.com/Leo. We've got a variety of deals for you, including a free 30-day trial. And that's the best way to find out if Nod 32 is right for you. They protect you from all those digital beasties out there. Viruses, worms, Trojans, spyware, adware, phishing, even rootkits. Their advanced heuristics catch the virus before the signature files are available. And it never slows down your system. You can try it free by going to eset.com/Leo or calling them 866-935-ESET. 866-935-ESET. If you use Windows, you need Nod 32, and that's just a fact, man. That's just the fact, Jack. Mike, Torrance, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Leo. How you doing?
Great. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for your great show.
Thank you.
Okay, Leo, I have this problem. My Internet Explorer is giving me the box that says it has encountered a problem and needs to close.
Yeah.
And when I try to close it, it just keeps coming back.
Ugh.
And initially, last night when I was on the Internet and this box came up, I tried to close it, and I was able. And then here's the odd thing. It will also give me a box when I click Don't Send. It will also give me a box that says Dr. Watson Postmortem Debugger.
You're not still running Windows 98, are you?
No, this is XP.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Watson's the debugger. You have Dr. Watson turned on. I suppose you should stop Dr. Watson. You don't need it. There is a way to turn that off.
Okay.
But because debugging isn't going to help you. You're not the developer. What are you going to do?
I don't even know what that is. The Dr. Watson.
It's the debugger is a program that programmers use to help them figure out what went wrong and fix it. And I'm surprised it's still running. I guess in Windows XP, yeah, they continue to offer Dr. Watson. You can turn that off.
Okay.
Which I probably would do, but that doesn't solve the problem. I'd say stop using Internet Explorer. They don't call it Internet Exploder for nothing. I'm a little worried about why it keeps running.
Okay, I have number 8.
Oh, that's good. So to turn off Dr. Watson, you click Start Run. You type DRWTSN, Dr. Watson without any vowels, and the number 32. You click OK. Yeah, Start Run, Dr. Watson. 32, DRWTSN32. Then you click OK. It'll run, and you can go into the settings there and say, stop bugging me.
Okay.
If that's what's causing the problem fixed. If not, you might try, I don't know, reinstalling IE8. My best recommendation, or start using Firefox. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, bad add-in. That actually makes more sense. That actually makes a lot more sense.